Horsepower Hobby.
Welcome back to Horsepower Hobby. In today's video, we're going to go over a few things such as the Mountain Dews and how much it costs to get those Mountain Dews down to Florida to Cleetus McFarland and the crew. And also, we're going to go over some details on the build for the 05 Cummins. And just going to go over the different parts and different things that we're thinking about doing on this build. But first, I need to get somewhere a little bit more quieter because of the renovations and all that's going on the home. It's a little loud out here. So come along with me, guys, and we'll give you a rundown on everything. So we've made it somewhere quieter. So before we get into the build and the actual cost of the Mountain Dews that we purchased and shipped to Cleetus McFarland, let me explain to you what the holdup has been on this actual build on the Cummins. Yeah, we've done some, I guess, brake modifications and stuff like that to make sure that the vehicle is actually safe. As far as actually, I guess you wouldn't consider the modifications, more like a repair. So that the vehicle could be safe when we brake. So now the ABS issues have been solved. But as far as mods to build more horsepower and more torque, the actual holdup on it has been the home renovations that I'm currently going through at my home. We're currently a couple of months behind, and mainly due to some unforeseen circumstances. We had some shipping holdups on various, I guess, parts and stuff like that, and pieces that we're putting into our home. And some of those delays have been 3 weeks on one rather than another week on another, so a total of about a month of delay. So that's a big part of it. And once again, some unforeseen stuff that we experienced. And now that we've gotten all of the big stuff out of the way with our home renovation, it is now allowing me to kind of free up some funds to put into the actual Cummins build. And so we were kind of holding on to some funding just in case we come into some other bigger issues. You just never know when you're doing renovations. But once again, now that all the big stuff is out of the way, now we're ready to move forward with the 05 Cummins build. So with that, let's dive on in and I can explain to you in detail what we're planning to do. This plan is not in stone, but this is, you know, what I've discussed with the mechanic over at SFM here locally. It's a shop here locally, and he's the one that's going to be doing the majority of the build. This guy here is very, very knowledgeable on the Cummins trucks, on the Cummins engines in particular. And we have a plan set out to allow us to build some pretty good horsepower. We're thinking somewhere around 125 plus. Don't want to say an exact number just yet. We're hoping we can get a whole lot more out of the build, but definitely about 125. I'm gonna say more. So let's get right into it, guys. And we're going with a bigger intake here. Currently with the stock intake, the inlet, it kind of chokes down here, and that restricts a lot of the airflow that goes into through the intake. So we're going to change that out and actually put one that kind of appears to be a solid piece down through here and doesn't restrict the air. So that'll increase more airflow. Of course, we're going with a cold air intake. We will be able to keep the stock turbo, and it should be able to perform pretty good. So let's continue on with this. We plan to go with a full 5-inch exhaust off the back of the turbo. So it'll be 5 inches. It'll go all the way down, all the way out the back of the truck. And I believe it's going to be a 5-inch or a 6-inch tip out the back of there. So that's going to look pretty awesome there. We'll be rolling the coal for real then. We also plan to run some sort of super scoop. It's a type of scoop that will force air in the front bumper area of the truck and up into the cold air intake box so that you don't lose any airflow there. I think inside the fender where the actual cold air intake will be sitting, it kind of generates a little bit of heat still because it's in the engine bay. So by us forcing air through where the bumper area is into that scoop, it's going to just put straight cold air up into the intake box, and it'll allow it to perform a whole lot better. I think they say it's a 15 or so horsepower drop by going up into the, well, I guess the difference between it not going up in the scoop versus going into the scoop and into the box. So we're definitely going to put some kind of scoop on the front because we weren't going to lose any horsepower due to, I guess, heat. So that scoop will come in on the passenger side and it'll mount underneath the bumper, kind of run back behind all of this stuff and attach to the cold air intake somewhere in there. once we get it all installed. So also, guys, one of the major part of the builds, which is the most expensive part that we're going to do, is the actual fuel injectors. I currently discussed in the last video that I do have an injector that is down, so while we're in there, why not go with some performance injectors? So we're planning on bumping up the injector size. So after talking to the mechanic at SFM, and once again, he's very knowledgeable on this stuff, we discussed putting somewhere between 125 horsepower to 200 horsepower injectors in the Cummins. So not really sure. We're going to actually put a tune on it, though, that way we can control it and it not, you know, flow 200 horsepower injectors wide open all the time. So we'll be able to control it and set it back to stop with the tune that we put on it. And so really can't discuss power numbers just yet, because we really don't know how it actually performed. I guess we don't know if we're going to be able to get the 200 horsepower injectors in it or not, and it safely runs. So it may be a thing where we just put the 150 horsepower in it, which is still pretty good. But with the tune, there was a question about the tune. We were told that we'll be able to go possibly over the 150 horsepower mark with the actual tune. So we're kind of waiting to hear back about that information. If that is the case, we should be able to put down some pretty good power, guys. So with this truck, if it's just set with 100 horsepower more, it will put us around 253 foot-pounds of torque more. So anything over 100 horsepower, I mean, it's pretty daggone good. So, I mean, if we can get 200, 250 horsepower somehow, man, that'll put us in some pretty big numbers. So, man, I don't know. We're looking to see what we can do with this thing safely. My other concern is the transmission. I'm not sure what these transmissions are rated for. I guess, guys, let me know down in the comments below if you've done a Cummins build. Let me know the max horsepower rating that you've been able to achieve out of your truck safely without grenading your transmission. So that may be something that we have to do after we begin this build. We may have to do some upgrades to the transmission and build it. So since we are going to put in bigger injectors, we're going to need to be able to get the fuel to the actual engine somehow. So I believe with the bigger injectors and it demanding more fuel, the engine will begin to starve for fuel unless we do something about it. So the solution is to put a lift pump inside of the tank and have a siphon attached to that lift pump. That way it will feed the lift pump and flow the fuel into the engine so that it'll keep up with the demand of the new setup, so that we will be truly flowing 150, 125, whatever the number is, 125 plus horsepower, and it'll flow it pretty good and continue to run like it's supposed to. So let's move on with the cost of the Mountain Dews for Cleetus McFarland. So to continue on with the cost of the Mountain Dews that I purchased for Cleetus McFarland, I originally purchased 1,008 Mountain Dews at the local Sam's Club here and loaded them up in the back of my pickup, brought them home and sorted those and put them on ice, and was going to proceed to deliver them to Cleetus McFarland, but didn't get permission from him and the crew. And I know in a previous video that he filmed, he said he didn't want anyone to just show up at his location. So I was wanting to do it respectfully in the right way. So for those first Mountain Dews, I actually paid around the neighborhood of 300 bucks for those and drove to the local Sam's Club and picked them up. So I still have some of those, really most of those Mountain Dews here, and they're at my home. But because I couldn't get the permission from him, we actually ordered a second round of Mountain Dews from Walmart.com. And Walmart.com was the site that we chose because they would allow us to send 1,008. And actually, there was some questions about that as well. They didn't know if they would be able to send the whole 1,008 because apparently they put some kind of bulk limit. And we were able to do it. They just split it up in, I guess, multiple smaller shipments. And so it kind of helped us out a lot. But for those 1,008 Mountain Dews, it ended up costing me around $700. So it cost me a little more than double. I'd say it was well worth it to be able to get that gift to Cleetus McFarland and crew. And it was actually a little less than $700. It's like maybe $670. But what I ended up doing as well is expediting a letter along with the Mountain Dew so that it arrived at around the same time. And that letter cost me 25 bucks to have it shipped to Cleetus McFarland next day. And so the letter and the Mountain Dews arrived at the same time. That way he wouldn't be, you know, just kind of fully in the dark about what's going on with the Mountain Dews when he received them. So they did receive the letter, they did receive the Mountain Dew, and all worked out. So total, I have invested in purchasing the Mountain Dews for Cleetus McFarland is about $1,000. And some would say that's too much money to invest in Mountain Dews, and I kind of sort of agree, but it actually served the purpose, and we got a good, cool gift to Cleetus McFarland and the crew. So I still do have, once again, about 900 and something Mountain Dews still at home in my basement. Rather, they were originally intended for Cleetus McFarland, but now he doesn't want any more Mountain Dews. He made it clear because he has more than enough. We're going to do some cool things with those Mountain Dews in videos to come, so do stay tuned for that. Also, as far as the build, hopefully we can get started on that build for the 05 Cummins this week. Looks like some of the parts that we can get next day, so hopefully we can get those parts next day and it works out that way and we can get going with it. I do need to coordinate it with the shop and make sure the mechanic is available for this build this week. And if that is the case, then you should see some changes coming very soon. But I'll let you guys know. And if you haven't subscribed already to this channel, please hit that subscribe button. Also hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of the awesome content that I come out with in the very near future. And also hit the like button. And until next time.